Picture this. You ate a careful dinner. No dessert, no bread, nothing you weren't supposed to have. You checked your blood sugar before bed and it looked good. You went to sleep feeling like you finally did everything right. Then your doctor shows you your morning reading and it's higher than it was the night before. Higher. And you didn't eat a single thing while you were sleeping. If that has happened to you, you are not imagining things. You are not failing at managing your blood sugar, and your glucose monitor is not broken. What's happening inside your body overnight is something most people over 60 have never been told about, and it has everything to do with what you eat or don't eat in the hour before you go to sleep. There is a specific food combination that can change your overnight blood sugar pattern dramatically, and it's not what most people would guess. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you're going to have an exact bedtime eating plan you can start tonight. I'm Dr. James, and this channel is dedicated to bringing you the most current, evidence-based health information specifically designed for adults over 60. We cut through the noise and translate real medical research into practical steps you can actually use. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now so you don't miss what we're releasing later this week on the morning habits that make blood sugar control twice as hard. Now let me tell you what that food combination is, and then we're going to spend this video understanding exactly why it works. Because when you understand the why, you'll actually stick with it. The combination is this: a small amount of protein paired with a small amount of healthy fat, eaten 30 to 60 minutes before bed. That's the core principle. But the specific foods matter, the amounts matter, and the timing matters in ways that will surprise you. Let's break all of it down. First, you need to understand what is actually happening in your body while you sleep, because this is where most of the confusion starts. Many people assume that blood sugar is stable when you're not eating. That assumption is completely wrong, especially after 60. Your body runs on glucose around the clock. Even when you're sleeping, your brain, your heart, your kidneys, and every other organ still need fuel. So your liver, which acts like an internal fuel storage tank, continuously releases glucose into your bloodstream overnight to keep everything running. This process is called hepatic glucose output, and in people with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, this overnight liver release can go into overdrive. But there's another layer to this. In the early morning hours, typically between 2 and 8 in the morning, your body releases a surge of hormones as part of its natural wake-up preparation. Cortisol, growth hormone, glucagon, and epinephrine all rise during this window. These hormones signal your liver to dump even more glucose into the blood. For people who are younger or who have excellent insulin sensitivity, the pancreas just releases a little extra insulin and handles it quietly. But after 60, and especially if insulin sensitivity has declined, the pancreas can't keep up. The result is that blood sugar climbs while you sleep, peaks in the early morning hours, and leaves you with a high fasting reading that has nothing to do with what you ate at dinner. This is called the dawn phenomenon, and research published in Diabetes Care estimates that it affects somewhere between 50 and 80% of people with type 2 diabetes, and a significant portion of people with prediabetes as well. If your morning blood sugar is consistently higher than your bedtime reading, the dawn phenomenon is almost certainly involved. Now here is where the bedtime food combination becomes relevant. One of the most powerful ways to blunt the dawn phenomenon is to give your liver a reason to slow down its overnight glucose production. And the way you do that is by ensuring certain nutrients are entering your bloodstream gradually throughout the night, rather than letting your system go into a prolonged, fasted state. Think about it this way. Your liver releases more glucose when it senses that blood sugar is dropping, or that the body needs fuel. If you stop eating at 6 in the evening and you go to bed at 10 and you wake up at 6 in the morning, your body has been in a fasted state for 12 hours, with 8 of those hours overlapping with the hormonal surge of the dawn phenomenon. Your liver is not getting any incoming fuel signals from food, so it compensates by ramping up its own glucose production. That overproduction is what drives those frustrating high morning readings. A small, carefully chosen bedtime snack changes this equation. It creates a slow, gentle stream of incoming nutrients that tells the liver it doesn't need to work overtime. But, and this is critical, you cannot just eat anything. The wrong bedtime snack will spike your blood sugar before you fall asleep and cause just as many problems. The right combination has very specific characteristics. Here's what the research says about what that combination needs to do. It needs to have almost no impact on blood sugar immediately. It needs to digest slowly so nutrients trickle into your bloodstream over 3 to 5 hours rather than all at once. And it needs to signal the hormonal pathways that regulate how aggressively the liver produces glucose overnight. A study published in the British Journal of Nutrition examined the effect of a pre-sleep protein snack on overnight glucose regulation in adults with type 2 diabetes. The researchers found that consuming 30 grams of protein from casein, which is the slow-digesting protein found in dairy, approximately 30 minutes before bed resulted in significantly lower fasting blood glucose levels the following morning, compared to a control group who didn't eat anything. The protein group also showed improved insulin sensitivity the next morning, meaning their bodies were better at handling glucose throughout the following day as well. Why casein specifically? Casein protein forms a gel-like structure in your stomach that breaks down extremely slowly, releasing amino acids into your bloodstream for 4 to 6 hours after you eat it. This slow release keeps a gentle signal going to your hormonal system throughout the night. The liver picks up on the fact that nutrients are still circulating, and it downregulates its own glucose production accordingly. You're probably wondering where you get casein protein without buying a supplement. The answer is simple. Dairy. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, and regular cheese are all high in casein. This is one of the reasons cottage cheese before bed has become something of a phenomenon in metabolic health circles, and it's not just a trend. Science supports it. But protein alone is not the complete answer. Here is where the fat component becomes essential. Fat slows something called gastric emptying, which is the rate at which food moves from your stomach into your small intestine. When fat is present in a meal or snack, the stomach holds onto its contents longer and releases them more gradually. This further slows the rate at which any carbohydrates or proteins are absorbed, smoothing out the glucose response even further. A 2022 study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism looked at how different macronutrient pairings affected postprandial, meaning after eating, blood sugar responses in adults over 55. The combination of protein and fat produced the most stable glucose curve, with the smallest peak and the most gradual return to baseline compared to carbohydrates alone, protein alone, or fat alone. When protein and fat were combined, the researchers described the overnight glucose curve as remarkably flat in the subjects with the most stable responses. Comment below right now and let me know, do you experience higher blood sugar in the morning than at bedtime? Say yes in the comments if this is something you've dealt with. I want to see how many people are experiencing this, so now you understand the why. Let's get specific about what. The ideal bedtime combination looks like this. A protein source that is high in casein, paired with a healthy fat source with little to no simple carbohydrates, and the total calorie count kept small, between 150 and 250 calories maximum. Let me give you the specific options that work best. Option 1 is half a cup of full-fat cottage cheese with a small handful of walnuts. This is arguably the best single option for overnight blood sugar stability. The cottage cheese delivers 20 grams of casein protein, and the walnuts provide healthy omega-3 fats, along with a small amount of fiber. Walnuts specifically have been shown in multiple studies to improve insulin sensitivity over time. A randomized controlled trial published in Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism found that daily walnut consumption for 6 months improved fasting insulin levels by 12% in adults with prediabetes. At bedtime, that fat content slows digestion and extends the stabilizing effect of the protein throughout the night. Option 2 is 2 tablespoons of natural almond butter on a small stalk of celery or a few cucumber slices. The almond butter provides protein and monounsaturated fat. The celery or cucumber adds almost no glucose load and gives you something to spread the almond butter on. Make sure the almond butter is natural, meaning the ingredients should only be almonds and maybe salt. Avoid any brand with added sugar or palm oil, as those will undermine the entire point. Option 3 is 1 ounce of hard cheese, such as cheddar, Gouda, or Parmesan, with a small handful of macadamia nuts or almonds. Hard cheeses are dense in casein protein, and the nuts provide fat and a modest amount of fiber. This combination is particularly good for people who don't enjoy the texture of cottage cheese. Option 4 is a small bowl of plain Greek yogurt, not flavored, not sweetened, with a tablespoon of chia seeds stirred in. Greek yogurt contains both casein and whey protein, and chia seeds provide omega-3 fats, fiber, and a gel-forming quality in your digestive tract that further slows glucose absorption. Now, here's something I want to be very clear about. The size of the bedtime snack matters enormously. This is not a second dinner. It is not a significant meal. It is a small, targeted metabolic signal. Eating too much before bed, regardless of what foods you choose, will raise overnight insulin levels, promote fat storage, and disrupt your sleep quality in ways that actually worsen blood sugar regulation the next day. Keep it small. 150 to 250 calories, no more. I want to tell you about Margaret, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Ohio who came in with exactly the pattern I've been describing. Her evening readings were consistently between 110 and 120. Her morning fasting readings were between 140 and 160, nearly every day. She was doing everything her endocrinologist told her to do. She was eating carefully at dinner, avoiding sweets, and taking her medication. But those morning numbers wouldn't budge. When she started having a half cup of cottage cheese with a tablespoon of natural peanut butter, about 45 minutes before bed, her morning readings dropped to between 105 and 120 within 3 weeks. Her doctor noted the change at her next appointment and was genuinely curious about what she had changed. She printed out the research she'd found on casein protein and dawn phenomenon and brought it with her. He agreed the evidence supported what she was doing and encouraged her to continue. But here's what shocked me the most about the research on this topic, and I want you to stay with me because this changes everything about how you should think about this strategy. It's not just the overnight readings that improve. A 2021 study from researchers at Florida State University found that when participants with type 2 diabetes consumed a bedtime protein snack for several weeks, their HbA1c levels, which is your 3-month blood sugar average, declined by an average of 0.4% compared to a control group. That might sound small, but in clinical terms, a 0.4% reduction in HbA1c is significant. It's the kind of reduction that can move someone from the diabetic range into the pre-diabetic range, or from pre-diabetic into normal, and they achieved that by simply changing what they ate before bed. The researchers believe the improvement in fasting glucose was compounding. When morning blood sugar starts lower, every meal throughout the day has a lower starting point to return to. It creates a cascade effect. Better fasting glucose leads to lower post-meal spikes, which leads to lower afternoon readings, which leads to a better bedtime reading, which then leads to another better morning. The bedtime snack essentially resets the baseline for the entire next day. I also want to address something that concerns a lot of people in your position, and that's the idea that eating before bed will cause weight gain. This is a belief that comes from an era of nutritional advice that has since been largely updated by newer research. The timing of when you eat is far less important for weight management than the total quality and quantity of what you eat over the course of a full day. A small 150 to 200 calorie protein and fat snack before bed does not meaningfully contribute to weight gain. And several studies have actually found that the increased satiety from a small pre-sleep protein snack can reduce overall next-day calorie consumption because it helps regulate hunger hormones overnight. A research team at Maastricht University in the Netherlands published findings in the journal Nutrients, showing that pre-sleep protein consumption in older adults not only did not cause fat gain, but actually supported lean muscle preservation during sleep, which is particularly relevant for anyone over 60 since maintaining muscle mass is one of the most important factors in long-term metabolic health and insulin sensitivity. Before I give you the full exact protocol, let me also address 2 things you should avoid eating before bed, because they're commonly believed to be fine and they're actually counterproductive for overnight blood sugar. The first is fruit. A small apple or a few grapes might seem like a healthy bedtime snack, and in many contexts, fruit is excellent. But at night, even natural fruit sugars cause a measurable rise in blood glucose that can persist into the early overnight hours and interact poorly with the dawn phenomenon, hormonal surge. If you enjoy fruit, eat it earlier in the day and pair it with a protein source. Avoid it as your bedtime snack. The second is crackers or toast, even whole grain. People often pair these with cheese or peanut butter thinking the fiber and protein will offset the carbohydrate load. But even whole grain crackers have a high enough glycemic index to create an initial blood sugar spike before any stabilizing effect kicks in. Drop the crackers and eat your cheese or almond butter on cucumber or celery slices instead. Now let me ask you something, and I'd love for you to share your answer in the comments below. What have you been eating before bed, if anything? Were you trying a fruit or a small piece of toast? Or have you been avoiding eating anything at all before bed? Your experience can help other people in this community who are going through exactly the same thing. Let me give you the complete protocol right now and be specific about each part. Begin 30 to 60 minutes before your normal bedtime, not immediately before you lie down. Your body needs some time to begin digestion before you're horizontal. Choose one of the combinations I described. If you're just starting out, the easiest to implement is half a cup of low-fat or full-fat cottage cheese with 10 to 12 walnut halves. That gives you approximately 20 grams of casein protein, 8 to 10 grams of healthy fat, and stays under 220 calories. Eat it slowly, don't rush through it. Chew thoroughly. Rapid eating can cause glucose to enter the bloodstream faster than it otherwise would. Drink a small glass of water with your snack, roughly 8 ounces. Adequate hydration supports proper kidney function overnight, which is directly tied to how efficiently your body clears excess glucose. Avoid larger amounts of fluid right before bed if nighttime waking to use the bathroom is a concern for you. Take note of your blood sugar before you eat the snack, and again when you wake up in the morning. Do this for the first 2 weeks. You want to see your own personal data. Most people who implement this correctly see a meaningful drop in their fasting reading within the first 7 to 14 days. Some people see it within 3 or 4 days. Do this every night, not just on weeknights or when you remember. Consistency is what produces the sustained HbA1c reduction that the research demonstrated. A one-time snack gives you a one-time benefit. A nightly habit changes your metabolic baseline. If you are currently on insulin, this is important. Please discuss this change with your physician before starting. Specifically, if you take long-acting insulin at bedtime, adding a casein protein snack may affect how much insulin you need overnight. Your doctor will want to know you're making this change so they can help you monitor for any adjustments needed to your dosing. This is a positive change, but any change when insulin is involved should involve your healthcare team. If you are on metformin or other oral blood sugar medications, this snack is generally very safe to add without adjustment. But again, letting your doctor know you're making this change is always a good idea. Keep a log of your morning readings for the first month and share that data at your next appointment. If you have kidney disease, protein intake recommendations are different for you, and the amounts I've described may not be appropriate. Please check with your nephrologist or your primary care physician about the right protein level for your specific situation before starting this protocol. Side effects are minimal. The most common issue people report when increasing protein and fat intake before bed is that they feel more full the next morning and may naturally eat a smaller breakfast. That is actually a beneficial effect for blood sugar management and nothing to be concerned about. If you experience any digestive discomfort, try switching from cottage cheese to hard cheese, which is lower in lactose and better tolerated by people with mild dairy sensitivity. Expect to see meaningful changes in your fasting glucose within 2 to 4 weeks. Expect to see measurable changes in your 3-month HbA1c within 3 to 4 months of consistent practice. These are the realistic timelines based on what the published research has shown. There was a second patient I want to share with you briefly. Frank was 71, a retired engineer, and he described himself as someone who had never been able to get his morning blood sugar below 130, despite years of trying. His approach to blood sugar management was meticulous. He tracked everything he ate. He exercised regularly, but that morning number was his white whale. He started the cottage cheese and walnut combination 45 minutes before bed every night. In his second week, he messaged to let me know his morning reading had come in at 115. By week 6, he was regularly seeing readings between 100 and 110. He told me it was the single most effective change he had made in 7 years of managing his blood sugar, and it took him less than 5 minutes a night. The reason Frank hadn't found this on his own is the same reason most people haven't. The conventional wisdom around blood sugar management focuses almost entirely on what you eat for meals and how much you exercise. Almost no mainstream advice addresses the specific biochemistry of overnight glucose regulation and the dawn phenomenon. The research on pre-sleep protein and overnight metabolic stability is relatively recent, much of it from the last 5 years, and it hasn't made it into most standard dietary guidance yet. That is why content like this matters, because you deserve to have access to the latest evidence-based strategies, not just the advice that was standard 15 years ago. Here is the bottom line. If you are over 60 and you consistently wake up with higher blood sugar than you had at bedtime, the dawn phenomenon is almost certainly playing a role. A small bedtime snack, combining casein-rich protein from cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, or hard cheese with a healthy fat from walnuts, almonds, or natural nut butter, can meaningfully reduce your liver's overnight glucose production, blunt the dawn phenomenon, hormonal surge, and lower your fasting blood sugar reading in a way that cascades into better glucose control throughout the entire following day. The research supports it. The mechanism is sound, and it costs you nothing except a few minutes and a half cup of cottage cheese. Tell me in the comments which of these snack combinations you're going to try tonight. Say the number 1 through 4 based on the options I gave you. And if you've already been eating something before bed that has been helping your blood sugar, share that too. This community learns from each other. If this video gave you something useful, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming later this week. We're covering the one breakfast habit that dozens of my senior patients have found sends their blood sugar soaring before 9 in the morning, and most of them had no idea it was the cause. It's something the majority of people over 60 do every single day thinking it's healthy. You'll want to see that one. Until then, I'm Dr. James, and your health at every age is worth fighting for.